Usually when we do these deep dives, we're pulling insights from, dense articles or research papers. We're charting trends, global shifts.
Right.
Today, though, we're treating our source material quite differently. We have what is essentially a forensic chronicle of real life-altering events.
It's a collection of notes, isn't it? And emotional outbursts, really. They map the internal journeys of two people.
Exactly. So our mission today is to analyze the immediate actions, the raw emotions, and maybe most importantly, the unspoken tensions of two lives. Two lives defined entirely by loss and just driven forward by these desperately high ambitions.
That's absolutely right. And what we have here, it's not just a simple biography of criminals. It's a study in extremes, a dual narrative of survival.
Okay, so who are we looking at?
On one side, we have Gianna. She's the exiled master of disguise, completely obsessed with achieving the ultimate perfect performance.
And on the other?
And paralleling her, we have Nenet. She's an outcast scout, and she is consumed by this desperate, almost fatal quest for a lost home and a stolen identity.
So the core question we are trying to answer today is what truly drives the engine of exile? What motivates a person who has lost everything? Their status, their home, their recognized future, to risk it all.
Their sanity, their safety.
Their very hope. All in pursuit of a single, all-consuming goal. We're going to be analyzing the massive power dynamics at play and the ultimate, often disastrous consequences of their choices.
Essentially, we are comparing two fundamentally opposing approaches to survival. Gianna's path, it's built on this profound artistic deception. She uses the mask as her ultimate weapon.
And
Nenet's path is built on a desperate, fatal search for an authentic historical truth. One embraces the lie to survive, the other seeks the truth to claim a legitimate existence.
so let's unpack this. Let's start by placing the spotlight squarely on Gianna and her obsession with perfection.
Let's do it.
So when Gianna opens her narrative, the first thing you notice is this immediate, almost reflex appeal to her former celebrity.
Yes, she doesn't introduce herself as a master criminal.
Not at all. She introduces herself as a former star. She just assumes that most people should recognize her. It establishes her elite former status as absolutely essential to who she is right now.
And what's truly fascinating is the almost aggressive level of detail she gives about her past in the HEIST theater. She wasn't just a competent stage actor. She was, by her own account, an artistic powerhouse, and she provides the receipts.
She really does. She cites her roles. Chevron in An Axiom Tragedy, Diala the Gemling Queen in Purity Tales.
And Merveille and Duresso and Merveille.
And these aren't just names on a playbill. They are benchmarks of her professional prowess. I mean, playing Chevron is about channeling this tragic obsession, intellectual decay.
And Diala, the Gemling Queen, that's a role that demands pure, dangerous arrogance and confidence.
Right. And Merveille requires a portrayal of this frustrated, almost monstrous love. Gianna mastered roles that demanded psychological intensity, not just someone who could read lines. It shows her identity has always been rooted in inhabiting these extreme, complex psychologies.
And, of course, the near nomination for a Tario for her Merveille performance.
Which we should probably contextualize for you, the listener.
We should. A Tario is, in their world, the absolute equivalent of winning the highest possible professional performing arts award. It's the pinnacle of artistic validation.
And she was inches away from being certified as the undisputed best in her field.
So close.
I wonder how much that near miss still affects her. You know, that frustrated ambition being so close to the ultimate professional peak and then having it ripped away. It has to fuel her current pursuit of perfection.
Of course.
Only now that pursuit is channeled into her illicit career. The crime itself is just the new stage where she has to prove again and again that she is the best.
It's the engine of her professional life, and this brings us right to the cause of her exile. She makes a point of clarifying that she was not planning a life of crime.
Which is a subtle plea for, retrospective innocence.
I think so. Her trajectory was successful and legitimate until she was derailed by this accusation of pecuniary lust, and then, boom, exiled.
Pecuniary lust. It's such an incredibly loaded term. It suggests this inordinate, almost obsessive desire for wealth.
But if we really analyze what's going on inside her head, that charge isn't really about the wealth itself, it's about the professional drive. She's trying to recapture the thrill of a high-stakes performance and the validation that came with it.
So the wealth is just the external marker of a successful performance. A successful heist is just a successful production with a bigger payout.
Exactly. Her core skill, which she has refined to an almost supernatural degree, is her unique ability to fully embody any role, to become not just the character but the person.
This isn't just about makeup or changing her voice. It's a deep psychological dive into the target. She believes that if she adopts the mental framework of a blackguard, she is a blackguard. And that's what makes her deception undetectable.
And this leads us directly into the frustrating patronage dynamic she's in now. She works for the boss, who, interestingly, recognized her talent.
Right, and she believes he was a practitioner of the performing arts in his youth.
Which is a crucial detail. The boss isn't just some brute. He's an educated patron with a discerning eye for performance. This suggests a mutual, if unequal, understanding of the craft. A potential professional connection she desperately tries to leverage.
The unspoken tension here is just thick enough to cut with a knife. Gianna is, and this is a quote, dying to perform a dialogue with him.
She craves that specific professional validation from a cultural elite who understands her artistic worth. She doesn't want praise for the money she brought in.
No, she wants praise for the quality of her disguise, the art of the performance.
But Kurai, the boss's lieutenant, just keeps maintaining that the boss's schedule is indefinitely booked.
And this reveals her minor, yet personally crushing powerlessness. She's geographically and professionally close to the one high-status patron whose recognition she craves, yet she is systematically denied the very thing that validates her identity.
Which is a true, intimate performance and a critique from him.
It's an ironic form of professional torment, isn't it? She can deceive anyone in the world, slip into any skin, execute any role flawlessly, but she cannot secure the attention of the one person whose praise would mean the most.
She's celebrated for her talent, but relegated to being a functional tool in his organization. She's denied the artistic reciprocity she demands.
Her power is absolute in the field, but completely non-existent in the inner sanctum of the man who signs her paycheck.
Given this intense, almost painful need for professional validation and the refusal of her patron to grant it, well, it's entirely predictable that Gianna would fixate on the most dangerous and forbidden material available.
The nameless play.
The nameless play. This whole pursuit is driven by an attraction to the forbidden, to a potentially superior material that exists outside the mundane criminal role she currently has to take.
And what makes this material superior in her eyes?
It's locked up with the rest of the works deemed distasteful by the Templar.
Ah. So for an artist who defines herself by pushing boundaries, the Templar's censorship is the ultimate endorsement of its artistic merit.
Exactly. She simply must have it because of the legend surrounding it. The risk is the draw for her.
And the legend attached to the play is just utterly terrifying.
Which only heightens the appeal for Gianna. We hear the details. The author wrote it unknowingly, high as an eagle on ergot, and then died immediately upon finishing it.
Let's just pause on that for a second. Ergot. That's a fungus. It's known for inducing extreme psychoactive and hallucinogenic effects.
Yeah.
But it can also be fatal.
Right. It can cause convulsions, gangrene. The implication is that the play wasn't just written in a fever dream. It was written at the absolute edge of life during a fatal state of altered consciousness.
Wow.
And the script is rumored to send performers mad. This raises the professional stakes for Gianna to an existential level. She's literally risking her sanity and her future for what she judges to be the ultimate good material.
So in her twisted professional calculus, madness isn't a deterrent.
It's the proof of unparalleled, dangerous artistic merit. She's seeking material that will finally push her ability past its absolute limit, maybe even past the limits of human comprehension.
So she gets the script. And this is where the analysis has to shift into like a forensic scene analysis. We have to dissect the bizarre plot itself.
The narrative is already profoundly unsettling. You have this beautiful young lady named Marilla who marries a statue.
Right. And then subsequently becomes queen of a city made entirely of bones. But it's the climax that reveals the play's true existential horror.
We have to recount this climax because it is the antithesis of the cohesive identity Gianna has built her entire career on. Marilla, standing before the unmoving statue, speaks what are called the blessed words.
Which read like a command for some kind of cosmic, non-linear existence. 2 into 1, 1 into many, to churn the world beneath the crashing dunes.
And then the action itself. Marilla's body shatters like fine porcelain, but here is the critical mind-breaking point. Instead of dying, each fragment becomes Marilla.
So each piece is a new whole person.
Yes, and then each new Marilla shatters again and again, rapidly proliferating until the stage directions read, "The stage is flooded by Marilla. All is Marilla."
That's unsettling.
It's the ultimate expression of ontological collapse. The ultimate horror for Gianna isn't death, it's the total loss of cohesive individual form, the shattering of the self into meaninglessness.
The individual actor, Marilla, just ceases to exist. She's replaced by this nonsensical, uncontrollable proliferation of her shattered identity.
And the final, grotesque, indifferent exit line is simply, the statue rises and exits stage right, Finn.
Wow. I mean, that sequence achieved what no threat or law ever could. The immediate consequence of her reading this is her completely stunned reaction. Her initial dialogue is just pure, desperate shock. She's looking for external confirmation.
She says, wow, that was something.
Right. She needs assurance that what she just witnessed on the page was indeed a thing that happened and not a symptom of her own impending madness.
She hit a boundary. She was seeking perfection, but she found a state of being that transcended any need for an individual role or disguise. The script was too perfect, too consuming.
And this leads to her immediate and complete withdrawal. I think I might just stick to the unbanned works for a little while, actually.
This realization is profound. The sheer nonsensical existential horror of the script, the total destruction of individual form. It just quelled her artistic recklessness.
She wasn't scared of the Templar or the legal consequences of stealing the script. She was scared of the material itself. She was scared of the prospect of losing the cohesive professional self that she'd spent her entire life perfecting.
That brush with madness pushes Gianna immediately back toward the pragmatic, the practical application of her talent, the lie that pays the bills. She returns to reality and makes a specific request for an old seamstress's costumes.
Right, arguing they're necessary to slip into a role undetected.
And this request is just steeped in the necessary grime of her new profession. She's specific about the sizing, a small man or a very large child.
That detail really grounds her professional deception in the practical, discrete necessities of covert operations. Her roles now require her to disappear, not command the stage.
And we get that telltale nonverbal cue about the stains. She starts to mention that some people would use them for illicit prior uses, and then she cuts herself off.
Out of slight shame, maybe, or just professional discretion.
Probably. It reveals the gritty reality. These aren't costumes for a clean stage. They are props for crimes, which are often messy and quick.
But the entire power dynamic shifts. And this is where her fortune really turns, with the critical discovery about where these costumes came from.
Gianna initially believes the seamstress crafted these costumes with impossible fidelity.
But the investigation reveals the stunning truth. The old woman didn't make them. She stole the genuine article.
Templar and Blackguard uniforms explicitly marked property of Templar Logistics Office.
That is a massive revelation. It immediately explains the costume's authenticity. They aren't props. They are literal state property.
And it explains why the seamstress suddenly vanished. She wasn't a master costumer. She was a major thief who likely paid the ultimate price for stealing genuine symbols of state power.
But the consequence for Gianna is purely advantageous. Her conclusion is triumphant. Her loss is our gain.
This is a paradigm shift in her career. Her new status relies not just on her performance skill, but on leveraging literal, genuine, stolen symbols of institutional power. She merges her talent for deception with authentic criminal tools.
Let's explore the implications of that for a second. A perfect lie requires a perfect uniform. By acquiring the genuine uniform of the Templar, the symbol of the highest, most feared authority, she doesn't have to act in the part as hard.
The uniform does half the work for her. The psychological effect of seeing a Templar Blackguard approaching is immense. If the uniform is real, the performance of authority becomes nearly effortless.
Exactly. The power of the state is now literally transferable to her through the material she wears. This is a devastating insight into the nature of power in their world.
The perfect performance is achieved not through superior acting, something she already possesses, but through the acquisition of genuine institutional authority, even if that authority is stolen.
Gianna has perfected the art of the lie by finding a genuine truth, the uniform, to wrap it in. She's now an imposter, but one who wields real, state-sanctioned fear.
And that distinction, professional success through harnessing stolen authority, is where we pivot. If Gianna's success is built on the perfect professional lie, we must now turn our attention to Nenet, who built her entire life on the desperate search for an authentic, but ultimately fatal, truth.
A completely different approach.
Completely. Gianna was exiled for a single, specific crime pecuniary lust. It was a choice. Nenet and her people, the Faradin, they carry the trauma of an ontological rejection, a judgment cast upon their very being.
And we get the definition of their status through the cold, judgmental perspective of their traditional rivals, the Mariketh, delivered by Adia.
And Adia's words are not just judgmental, they're brutal and defining. The Faradin are rejects, left to die in the desert as children for being unworthy or flawed.
So they weren't just criminals who broke a rule. They were deemed fundamentally insufficient, flawed human beings who deserved to be cast out.
This label unworthy is the driving motivation for Nenet's entire life and mission. She isn't trying to recapture a lost status like Gianna's celebrity. She's desperately trying to prove this foundational judgment wrong.
Her identity isn't centered on what she does, but on defying what she was accused of being since birth.
And we immediately see her trying to build a new community founded on shared loss. She connects with the listener directly, framing them as equals who have had their rightful home stolen. It's an attempt to create a shared identity outside the shame imposed by the Mariketh.
But there's a crucial unspoken tension woven into her introduction, reflecting her deep cynicism. She poses a rhetorical question, almost a challenge.
She asks, "We are all innocent here, yes?"
Which reveals her acute self-awareness. She knows the outcasts she works with are likely not innocent in the traditional sense. They're thieves, killers, and criminals.
Ah, I see. So the shared trauma isn't legal innocence.
No. It's the essential, profound trauma of being arbitrarily cast out by their own culture. That loss, that rejection, is more defining than any individual crime they may have committed later. They share an ontological wound.
Exactly. The fact that they are all scum or unworthy in the eyes of the Mariketh creates a bond that supersedes any moral disagreement. Nenet is a highly aware individual who understands that survival depends on shared identity, even if that identity is built on a cynical foundation of shared victimization.
Nenet's entire adult life, then, has been characterized by this search for inspiration and guidance. She openly admits her lifelong search for someone to follow.
Someone who could provide meaning and community to her days, effectively replacing the home and parental guidance she never had.
And this leads to her highly pragmatic, even clinical assessment of the boss.
She concludes he is not that man. He's not the inspiring, morally centered figure she desperately needs to build a pure new home.
But she settles for him.
She settles, because he is better than nothing.
This reveals a critical power dynamic in the boss's organization. His authority isn't based on moral superiority or inspiration. It's purely on utility and function. He created a functional society where all unwanted scum are welcome, as long as they're willing to work and follow rules.
In a world of chaos and rejection, the boss provides structure and security, the basic necessities of survival. For Nenet, who was cast into the utter chaos of the desert as a child, structure is a form of salvation.
She chooses functional stability over philosophical aspiration, at least until she can find a viable alternative.
This compromise shows her immediate, pragmatic focus on survival, even while her heart is yearning for something much greater.
But settling for better than nothing always implies a lingering hunger. She's using the boss's security as a launch pad for her true quest, which is to find that alternative.
And the environment itself plays a crucial psychological role in her story. Nenet utterly rejects the name Plains of Vestiri. She calls it an elegant lie.
For what she knows as a harsh desert, a blasted wasteland of broken rock, crimson sands, and salted earth. She sees the name Plains as a deliberate, cruel deception. Those who use it, she notes, are seeing it as it was thousands of years ago. They're clinging to a historical memory that fundamentally contradicts the harsh reality of the present.
She calls them deluded.
But this leads to the most important piece of her internal narrative. She can't judge the others for their delusions because she admits that she is also deluded.
How so?
She still believes she will find a home someday. She recognizes the madness in clinging to the hope of belonging in a world that has repeatedly shown her she doesn't.
So the stakes here are extremely fragile. Her self-deception, the belief that home is still possible, is the only thing keeping her sane.
She concludes that everyone needs a flavor of madness to remain sane in this brutal environment.
It's a profound admission. Her high-stakes, nearly impossible quest for a home is rooted in this necessary but extremely fragile self-deception. She understands the nature of delusion because she lives it. She's using hope as an irrational defense mechanism against the crippling finality of despair.
If she gave up that delusion, she would simply cease to function.
The ultimate irony is that Gianna uses conscious professional lies to gain power, whereas Nenet uses unconscious, necessary delusion just to maintain the will to live.
So Nanette's quest moves from this philosophical self-deception to tangible, directed action. Her initial mission is noble, historically focused, and deeply political.
To find the Book of Jamanra, this book chronicles a bold warrior who tried to unite the scattered Faradun thousands of years ago.
This is more than just a history lesson for her. It's her pathway to societal redemption. The goal is simple: prove Jamanra's historical existence and his noble intentions.
This, she argues, will allow her to initiate a ritual challenge with the Mariketh to test Faradun warriors for worthiness. She's essentially trying to force their acceptance back into the fold based on an honorable trial by combat.
What's at stake here is everything Nenet has ever hoped for. This quest represents the last, peaceful, historically sanctioned effort to win back the lives we should have had and resolve her core question of identity and belonging.
If she succeeds, the Faradun will be legitimized, and she can finally address that deep personal void left by her parents' rejection.
I find this fascinating because she's attempting to use the Mariketh's own tools, history, ritual, honor against them.
She believes that if she can prove her people have a noble, unified past, the Mariketh will be compelled by tradition to restore the honor they claimed the Faradun lacked. It's a pure, almost naive faith in the power of history.
And then comes the climax of this initial quest. The discovery of the book and the truth it holds is, well, it's devastating.
It's devastating enough to shatter not just Nenet's mission, but her entire belief system. The immediate consequence of this discovery violently shifts her worldview completely.
What does the book reveal?
The betrayal. It details that the Mariketh Sekimas, and we should note, these are the highest authority figures within the Mariketh tribe, the ones responsible for upholding honor.
Right.
They agreed to meet Jamanra, but they poisoned him. It wasn't an honorable fight, it was a cynical trick.
This revelation isn't just a historical defeat for her. It's confirmation of betrayal and ingrained cruelty by the supposedly honorable Mariketh. The high and mighty leadership were cowards.
They used poison rather than face a worthy challenger. This discovery just invalidates Nenet's core belief that truth or history or even personal worthiness could ever win the day against entrenched, cynical power.
This must have been a moment of intense emotional agony for her. She had invested her entire sense of self in this peaceful historical pursuit, only to find that the foundations of honor are rotten.
Her immediate reaction shifts her entire perspective. The dialogue reveals the death of her hope. She says, "I suppose I should have expected nothing less from this brutal world we live in, exile."
She doesn't just abandon the mission, she abandons the entire concept of peaceful legitimacy.
The power dynamic shifts violently within her own mind. The power of peaceful negotiation, history, and shared culture is instantly replaced by the recognition of only one true power: brute force and cynical self-interest.
She concludes, hope is an illusion, and that raw force is the only way to take anything for oneself.
This is the critical moment. Nenet breaks faith with her noble mission and moves into a desperate, morally compromised space. She transitions from a seeker of truth to an aspirant of tyranny.
With diplomacy and history proven useless, Nenet pivots to an extreme self-destructive plan.
Her need for a home, coupled with the realization that only force works, means she decides to abandon all diplomacy and find Jamanra's final resting place to perform a resurrection.
She's no longer trying to prove the Faradun are worthy based on history. She's trying to create a weaponized leader who can force worthiness through conquest and violence. The goal has shifted from legitimacy to dominance.
And the analysis here has to focus squarely on her explicit, conscious embrace of corruption. She intends for Jamanra to be empowered by corruption this time around.
How does she rationalize this? It's a monstrous choice.
She says that no cowardly poison will be able to stop him this time. She believes only the power of the wasteland itself can grant him the immunity he needs to succeed.
This is the ultimate high-stakes gamble. Nenet is willing to taint her noble ancestral hero, the symbol of her people's purity, with the very madness and decay of the land.
She is creating an unstoppable, violent leader who will carve a home for ourselves on the plains of Vestiri with the sharp edge of a sword.
Think about the profound moral trade-off here. She is sacrificing the purity of her ancestral quest, the very history she sought to legitimize, for guaranteed violent results.
She's essentially saying, if we cannot be accepted as noble, we will become the monsters who force acceptance. It is a self-destructive calculation rooted in absolute despair. She accepts the idea that creating a monster is the only way to secure a future.
So the resurrection is technically successful. but the outcome is catastrophic.
Exactly what you'd expect when you try to weaponize fundamental cosmic corruption. Nenet achieved the miracle she sought. Gianna has returned, but her desperation completely corrupted the result.
His initial war cry tells us everything we need to know about what Nenet unleashed.
He's a tyrant, not a unifying leader. He screams, "The scourge of the Vastiri will ride once more, all will bow or die," and cower before Gianna.
The tragic, immediate consequence is that Nenet's quest for a unifying figure only unleashes a raving mad monster, a creature of pure destructive power devoid of the nobility she sought to resurrect.
She sought a foundation for identity and community, but she found a violent, destructive dictator who promised conquest, not collaboration.
She's proven her ultimate powerlessness over the corruption she sought to wield. The very tools she created immediately turned against the concept of a shared, moral home she was fighting for.
The irony is just crushing. In her attempt to reclaim a noble past, she brought forth a future of tyranny, confirming the Mariketh's cynical worldview while utterly destroying her own desperate hope.
She tried to create a savior and merely created a mirror of the world's brutality.
And this leads to Nenet's utter defeat. The absolute lowest point of despair. Her will is just gone.
She says, Gianna was a raving mad monster. There is no hope, exile. The high purpose is gone, replaced by pure nihilism.
And she turns inward, questioning her entire grand ambition. Who was I to think that I could change thousands of years of brutal tradition? This is the moment she accepts the permanence of the brutality she lives in.
The weight of millennia of betrayal, rejection, and now self-sabotage finally crushes her individual resolve.
And the final consequence is her complete resignation. Her quest for a home ends not in violence, but in escapism.
I think I'm going to take refuge in Mead from now on.
The grand, all-consuming purpose that defined her life has died, leaving only the need for immediate, temporary oblivion. She has exchanged the flavor of madness necessary to sustain hope for the anesthetizing certainty of resignation.
Her journey offers a grim lesson. The greatest risk is not in criminality, but in believing that the world will reward authenticity and historical truth.
Let's pull these two figures together now, because their divergent paths offer a clear mandate on survival in their brutal world.
We have two fundamental paths of exile. Gianna, the professional deceiver, who seeks status and perfection through artifice.
And Nenet, the seeker of authentic truth and belonging.
Their approaches to power stand in stark, telling contrast. Gianna succeeds by acquiring genuine instruments of institutional power, the literal stolen temple uniforms, to fuel her performative deception.
She understood intuitively that if the uniform is real, the performance is effortless and thus successful.
And Nenet fails precisely because she seeks authentic power, the true historical Gianna, and finds only a corrupted, violent monster.
She put her faith in history and tradition as clean forces, and history poisoned her hope, forcing her to embrace the very corruption she despised, which ultimately led to despair.
Gianna embraces the lie, but shrewdly uses genuine high-status resources to make that lie function perfectly, thereby gaining power and professional validation.
Nenet seeks the pure truth, but discovers that the truth itself is too corrupted by the world's ancient violence to be of any redemptive use.
So this chronicle shows us a brutal lesson about the nature of their reality. The pursuit of an authentic, unifying past Nenet's journey is far more dangerous and disastrous. It leads to utter despair and the unleashing of unintentional terror.
The world broke her, not through external force, but through a devastating internal realization.
Whereas the embrace of professional surface-level lies, backed by stolen symbols of authority, Gianna's journey leads directly to professional opportunity, continued artistic fulfillment, and temporary satisfaction.
The world, in their context, rewards the skilled imposter who wields genuine power, not the earnest seeker of a fatal truth.
So Nenet sought a home and found a monster, leading to complete despair and a resignation that ended her purpose. Gianna sought a perfect role and found the genuine uniform of tyranny, leading to professional opportunity and the validation she craved.
This raises an important and I think provocative question for you, the listener. As you navigate a world where information and identity are constantly fabricated and contested from boardrooms to battlefields.
And the question is,
when all foundations are corrupt and truth leads only to destruction, is it better to be the master of the convincing lie or the believer in a fatal truth?
think on that, and we'll see you next time for the next deep dive.